Listen now here we are.
Okay.
We have made it to Mr. Terry Carter.
Only an hour and a half later.
Professional YouTuber and amateur. No, wait, I got those backwards. Professional treasure hunter extraordinaire, and he also kind of dabbles in YouTube.
So I'm not a professional anything. I dabble in everything, and I just have a lot of great fun.
This is what I always say. Have you ever been paid anything from treasure hunting ever?
Is treasure hunting like an
by a
actual
person or by nature
occupation?
I don't know.
It's a labor of love. You'll 99% of the time you go out there, you're never going to find nothing.
Yeah, but you brought that wedding ring back for your wife. I consider that pay. To be a professional, you just have to be paid. Not a lot necessarily,
no,
but
here's a serious question: Is treasure hunting like an actual professional occupation?
There's some people that do it professionally like that. Yeah.
Would you like list it like on your W-2 form as like, or I don't know, whatever, a tax form? It's like professional treasure hunter.
Yeah,
if there's so many laws, rules, and regulations, and criminals and all kinds of things like that out there that the most time when people find something, unless you happen to know them, you'll never hear a thing about it.
Yeah,
you'll never ever know.
There you go. Okay.
But
causes problems when you tell people.
Oh yeah, it's like the Etosha that they found. The Fisher family found out off of the coast of Florida. They found all that millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of gold and silver and jewels and that on that sunken ship, for the Etosha. Well, the government wanted it. Florida wanted it. Man, they had to fight 173 times. They had to fight in court and finally won to be able to keep that. It took them a long time and a lot of money to fight.
The treasure hunters.
Yeah. The treasure hunters. There's a guy, when people find stuff now, you'll never hear about it.
It's a whole
you'll never hear about it.
Your
I know. I'll tell you what, if I found a gold bar somewhere, I'd be like, cool, let's quietly start researching. I'll probably call Terry and be like, do I melt this down?
You would tell us.
Not on the podcast. That's for damn sure. But that is an interesting point. You don't want to.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah. Like if you won the lottery, you wouldn't really tell anybody.
The only risk the risk that I would run taking gold is being haunted for the rest of my life by whatever protective, spirits are there.
Curse.
That's scary.
Curse or spell.
Like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. Or real life.
Yeah.
Bill.
Or real life.
So Terry, let me tell you one of the reasons why I stumbled onto your channel.
Let's hear this.
Here's a survey of one. I love like backpacking, hiking, camping. I like it a lot. I wish I could do it more, but I was looking for places that I could go in Utah where it's not necessarily super heavily traveled areas, but like potentially there's some lure there of like just being in the same areas of like potentially these Aztec stories, the Spaniard stories, whatever, even Mormon church, treasures, I guess people call it. Like I wanted to backpack in some of those areas where it's like, maybe not treasure hunting for sure, but like, hey, there's a chance you could find something interesting. You know what I mean? I think that would be cool. And so I was like kind of looking in different areas and I found your channel and noticed you did talk a lot about different areas in Utah and whatnot and started listening to it. And then was like, yeah, I think I should have this guy come on the podcast. So that was how I stumbled across it. But is that how would you summarize because you don't just look for treasure, financial treasure like gold and silver, but you look for what I would call like historical treasure too. Like, I mean, does that sound accurate? How would you classify that yourself?
Yeah. So historical, out of place, archaeology, things that doesn't fit, shouldn't be there. So yeah, and treasure, you got to treasure to you and me might be different. To me, treasure is the people I've met, the places I've been, the stories I've heard, the things that I've seen that most people will never ever get to see and hear. And that's a treasure to me. So when I'm out treasure hunting and I don't find no treasure, I've still got treasure. I've been out in beautiful areas. I've explored new places. So that's the ultimate for me, and that's what keeps me going. If I was going to go out and find a treasure every day, I'd have quit a long time ago.
Right.
It's the getting out in. It's an excuse to get out into Mother Nature.
Yeah.
explore and hike around and see things. And like you said, what can I do while I'm out there hiking around and doing, it's just an added benefit to it.
Right.
That you probably won't find anything, but what if you did?
Yeah.
So you're out hiking on a trail, and you're like, I want to go over there because it doesn't look like anyone.
Yeah. So
It's
like,
been that way.
what's the process? Like, what do you like? Were you just like, I'm going to go here because of whatever? I mean, what do you, I guess that's my question is like, what locations do you pick for whatever reason?
So it's 95% research.
Right.
So when I go into an area, I've already researched. I've talked to the old timers. I've dug out old newspaper articles. That's taken me to an area, and then you go into that area and you look for things that don't look natural. Rocks piled up, depression in the ground, and you just look for things that aren't, markings on trees. You just look for things that aren't natural and go from there.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I've heard, even like, I don't know which tribes it would be, but Native Americans would alter trees to indicate water sources. Like, hey, this way there's a river or a lake or something, but they'd actually change the trees. They'd almost bend them. And so when there's crooks in a tree, have you heard that before or seen that?
Oh, yeah. So when you get back east, all them, they're so heavily forested,
Mm-hmm.
in North Carolina and all them places that they just cut out the trees, put the towns in there, cut out the trees, put the roads in there. Well, back in the olden days, they were so thick in that to mark their trails in that, they would bend the trees. They would do everything to keep, a marking of how they had to travel to get from point A to point B. Well, the Spaniards would do the same thing. They'd mark the trees, they'd put knots in them, or they'd to mark where their mines were, where their treasures were.
So when you're scanning a landscape, are you looking at everything? Like what are some of the things you look for? Like the trees you're looking at, piled rocks, like you said, and what other kind of visual cues do you get? Like sensory wise?
Well, like I said, you're looking for things that don't look natural, that somehow human hands altered that area, whether it's the dirt, whether it's the rocks, whether it's you're looking for things that just don't look natural, or you're looking to see if you can see faint trails, you're just looking for everything like that. And time has covered a lot of these faint trails. Time has so the best time, is in the springtime before all the growth starts happening, and a lot of these trails, that the Spaniards had, and that they were game trails originally, or the deer and the elk, they took over them trails, because it's easily traveled on them. Where does these trails lead to? Is it just a game trail, or was this an old ancient Spanish pack trail to one of the mines?
Right.
You ever find mines and go in them? Yeah. It'd be pretty sketchy sometimes.
I've been in some sketchy ones. So another story.
Yes. Yeah. Here we go.
So I had a guy contact me, and he told me that he married a Navajo girl, and that the grandfather was pretty traditional and didn't like her marrying a white guy.
Sounds right.
Didn't like that at all. And so it took years, like 10 years or longer, for finally the grandfather warmed up to him and thought, well, okay, maybe this white guy's okay. Well, he told him
he just stuck around. So.
I guess I'm not getting rid of this guy.
So he told him a few stories, and this guy contacted me and told me some of these stories. And one of them was that the Navajos brought a treasure to the mountains east of Provo and hid it in a cave where a river ran through it. Well, I'd done a lot of hiking in the mountains east of Provo, and I found a cave where a river was coming out of it. And so before I didn't think anything of it, so I didn't want to go into it. But when he told me that story, I went in it, and it just was a small opening, and you had to get wet to go down got up to my waist in water, and then it came up out of the water, and you was inside where you could stand up and you could see it was a mine.
Oh, wow.
And so I went one direction and it caved in and ended off. So I went in the other direction, and there was a hole in the floor about this big around, but it was clear full of water. And I could hear dripping.
This is like my nightmare, but
I could
cave with water.
I could hear dripping, and it sounded like to me, man, that this was like a water trap. All you got to do is get in, get underneath this water, come up into another room. Man, there's all the Navajo treasure, So I trying to figure out how I'm going to, and you got to be safe. There's a lot of people end up dead because they're not safe.
Right.
Cave diving.
And
like one of the most dangerous things.
When you brought that up, I was like, man, you probably get yourself in like precarious situations. Like even in this story, like that's like a nightmare going into a cave.
I'd stop right there.
Yeah. Like
water trap. I'd be like, even if I was certain this is a water trap, I might let someone else know about it.
Right. Like even just getting to like waist deep in water, be like,
well, if you let somebody else know about it, then they're going to get the treasure and you're not,
Yeah, that's true.
So
you got to find it, Jeff.
So trying to figure out how I'm going to do this, I thought, well, I'll get a scuba diving tank, but there really wasn't a lot of room, So finally what we did was and this was in the middle of the winter. It was a cold. It was like 3 below zero that night. I went at night because I didn't want people to see what I'm doing because it's on the face of the mountain. People can see what you're doing, So we hiked up a generator and a pump and 200 foot of hose and we stuffed the hose down in there and pumping all the water out of this thing. And we get down in there and you go one direction. And it caved in, and that was it. And we go the other direction, and there was a wooden ladder sticking up out of a hole, but it had all filled in with mud, and so couldn't do anything with it. So I put a story about that on my website that I had way back when. This was way back when. Man, coming out of that was cold. We was all soaking wet. It was nice inside the cave. It's 50 degrees, feels warm. As soon as we get out. Man, by the time I got to my truck, my whole pants was frozen solid. I was an ice cube. But anyways, a few years later, some BYU college students get in there.
Damn BYU.
I know it.
Dang white.
And there was, I can't remember. I think there's 4 of them, and 3 of them get down in the hole and go. I mean, this thing is, you only got that much room between the ceiling and the water level.
Oh my gosh. He's holding his hands up a couple inches apart. Yeah.
So they get down in there, and the one friend, he stays outside because he don't want to get wet. He's got to go to work, and they never come out.
Wow.
And so he goes in there looking for them and can't find them. They call the search and rescue. They come in and they'd got down there and it drowned. And it boggles my mind why somebody would take a chance like that. Why there was only room for one person to get down in there, come out the hole and walk. The tunnel was so narrow. Why 3 of them got down one right after the other, and then, if they panicked and couldn't get out quick enough, but why did all of them? I don't know why all of them died. It was crazy.
Yeah, I think that one of those kids, I think, was a high school friend of my brother, and I thought what had happened, and I think it was this story where one of them was in there, and the other 2 got caught and stuck in the water and drowned. And so the third guy couldn't get out, but he essentially ate up all the oxygen, and he suffocated.
That makes sense.
Wow.
If I remember correctly, that's something like that is what happened. But it's a crazy story.
Well, because if you're in a little pocket in there, and it's water here, and you've only got a few cubic feet to breathe. It wouldn't take long to
you got to bring in some kind of fern, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Something that makes
Just
oxygen. So in like 10 years, there'll be like an extra liter of oxygen.
So there's a couple things you said that was interesting. One was a water trap, which I'm familiar with what that is. I don't know if the listener or anyone else is, but what's the idea behind a water trap?
So a water trap is that they would design these so that you go in there and you think it's a dead end. This cave's a dead end. This mine's a dead end. You know, it doesn't go any farther. But if you go underneath it, it's like the on your sink, the trap on your sink. You know, you got to go down and then come back up into another room.
Like a P trap under your sink. So it looks like it's a dead end, but you can actually get to it. I've heard that there's a lot of ideas of Montezuma's treasure in Utah, and there's some places in southern Utah where they're like, this is a water trap. This is an unnatural section of water, and people think that if they can get into these underwater caves and out into the right place, there's going to be, you know, Indiana Jones style rooms of gold that's going on in there. But anyway, I'm sure there's a lot of different things. You had mentioned the first time I heard about water traps was actually on Oak Island, the show. I had watched that. Have you guys seen Oak Island? It's like a reality TV show. I'm sure it's embellished and stuff, but there's an island where supposedly there's a shaft that has basically been booby trapped with the water around it. To once you get to certain areas, they have a water trap where they've funneled in water from the bay to flood this thing, so that basically you can't get to the gold or whatever's hidden in there. But
and that part's all true. That all happened. That was all true, man. They found this in the 1700s, and they've been digging on it since then. You know, and even President Herbert Hoover, he was there digging on this, and it is a true, well documented thing. Yeah, and
they found the man-made like tunnels or whatever that was feeding into this water trap to flood this hole. Anyway,
so was anything found out of this cave at all, or is it just?
I never found anything. I never found anything, and when them kids died in there, they came in and filled it up, and so
filled up the mine and everything, so that nothing would happen.
So, you know, for there to be anything there, it could have been something down that ladder that was filled up with mud. So you might had to have, and I don't know for sure how if it was just a real muddy or you know, but I don't know, you'd had to dig down, and I just didn't have time to do that.
So moral of the story, don't marry a white guy.
That's what I always say.
As a Navajo, I won't.
hey, so being your Navajo, I gotta bring up a story. So when I worked with a lot of Navajos, so I got a lot of Navajo stories. But this was when I
have a lot of white stories.
So when I was growing up, they had what they called the Indian Placement Program, and a lot of Navajo kids came and lived with families around. And we had one that was in our scout troop, Philip James, and we went on a scout camp to the sand dunes, and you know, we're all 12 years old, I don't know, and this is back before plastic sacks. We had paper sacks with our food in it and stuff, you know. Well, man, we're rebellion scouts, you know. We're going around gathering up the cedar bark and rolling it in the brown paper sacks and sitting around the campfire smoking the cedar bark, you know. Well, Philip James comes up to us and says, "That's stupid. That ain't how you do it. This is how the Indians do it." He went around and grabbed dried up rabbit poop, and he started rolling us these
oh my God,
rabbit poop in our brown paper sacks. He said, "Here, you guys do this, man." And we're all sitting around, and I don't remember Philip smoking one, but we all sitting around thinking we're smoking like the Indians. And years later, I'm thinking, you know, I'll bet they have a contest. They see who can get the white guy to do the dumbest thing, and I bet Philip won.
And you guys smoked rabbit poop.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay.
That's great.
That's a good one.
Next time we're out, guys.
Yeah,
I hear it's really awesome. It's a crazy high.
This is why I don't go camping with you guys,
because you just trump us.
I'm just gonna make you do dumb shit.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to go camping with you this year. Then see what we can smoke.
Yeah.
Like rabbit poop. That's great.
Do you ever?
Wait, are you off vaping?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're done.
I don't
with
know.
it. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
But I thought you smoked now again.
I've smoked before. Yeah.
Oh.
Are we talking about this on a podcast?
Yeah.
I thought you started smoking again.
No.
Okay.
No.
Anyways,
thanks though.
You're welcome. for publicly.
One thing I did, I
them?
found that my dog poop was really good to smoke, so I started rolling that up and drying it out.
Some Navajo told him to do it.
Yeah.
Tyler was telling me it's
I was
pretty
like,
awesome.
Luna has the best poop around, so you go smoke that shit.
Do you ever do just like not necessarily like research and go, but do you ever just go out and like just look on the ground for, gold, gemstones, arrowheads, just like that kind of treasure hunting, I guess you'd say? Trilobites.
Yeah, just exploring.
Yeah.
All the time, because there's so much stuff happened with history out there that's not even been recorded. Nobody even knows about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm out in the area, if I see an area that looks interesting and I want to explore it anyway, or if I'm out hunting or deer hunting or elk hunting or whatever, I've always got my eyes open for something. So
and I guess that's what I'm asking, like, because recently I took my family out trilobite hunting, like in some trilobite beds, and it's so interesting because I could walk over the same spot a dozen times, and it's like the 13th time I walked by, I just happened to see this thing lying on the ground. It's like you can pass things, like it's how do you train your eyes and your mind to pick up on what you're looking for, and if you're looking for like now I'm looking for these like lines in a trilobite. Now am I missing like a diamond lying on the ground, or
you're looking for one thing, but
if I'm looking for one thing, am I missing other things? Like how do you just be open to like actually find, or can anybody just like walk right past things all the time?
Oh yeah, and that happens. I've been in areas that I knew something was at, but I wasn't seeing it. And a few years later, I'd go in and see something that I never seen before, and I think, how did I miss that? It's plain as day. How did I miss that?
Yeah,
So yeah, when you're researching, when you're scouting an area where you're doing things, you need to go back, multiple times, because you're definitely, I guarantee it, you're going to miss something that you didn't see the first time. You're going to see it the second or third or fourth time.
This is why I'm always a little hesitant. I hear stories of like, I did this research about this cave, and then we went out there and we found it, and I'm like, okay, this seems a little weird. But the stories that are more believable to me is like, I was flying my drone and it crashed, and I had to go find it, and right next to that drone was this pile of rocks with a thing, and sure as shit, that trail led me right to the whatever, you know what I mean? It's like this weird happenstance thing, or like my dog ran off and I had to go find them, and I found the dog, but it was next to this mysterious thing or whatever, right?
Like Timp Cave was discovered.
Yeah, do you have an idea of like
cougar.
What's been more happenstance versus like intently trying to find stuff?
I agree with you 100%. More stuff is found accidentally than people searching, because accidentally, like going back, there's so much stuff happen.
Interesting.
So much history happened that we don't even know about. So people have, I've talked and interviewed the guys that fell into the ground was shallow, and they was walking and it gave way, and they caved into an old mine with gold bars in it.
Wow.
I mean, I've there's stories like that all the time, and a lot of times you don't, unless you happen to know these people or you're in them circles, you'll never hear these stories, because they're not going to tell you they found a cave full of gold bars. They're not going to tell you,
Right.
So
well, because in a lot of cases, from what I hear, the government swoops in and says that's ours.
All the cases.
Yeah.
Not a lot of cases, all the cases.
Well, and the one that, and I brought this up on the podcast before, but there was a documentary on Netflix a while back called Dinosaur 13, where up in Wyoming,
With Adam Driver.
up in Wyoming, this amateur archaeologist finds a T-Rex, and it's on a Native American's land. And they go to the Native American and say, we want to buy this T-Rex. We want to excavate it. And he says, sure. And he sells it to him. So they're there working and doing things, and they're letting people know. And archaeologists are flying in from all over the world to watch them dig up this T-Rex. And they're like, these guys are the best I've seen. They're excellent archaeologists, and they're all amateur. Well, the government finds out about this and swoops in and says, you can't do this. And there's lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And they're saying, this is on Native Americans' land, but that's really U.S. government land, so he can't sell that T-Rex and blah, blah, blah. And it just like back and forth. Anyway, they end up raiding this amateur archaeologist who has a whole collection from all over the world. They raid and take all his bones and everything that he has, like, and he's saying on this documentary, they're like, yeah, they're making an example out of me. They're telling everybody, if you find anything, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, and
Yep.
so what does that do? Just like you said, it just tells everybody, if you find something, don't tell anybody.
And that's
Like-
sad because that's what's happened. A lot of history
Yeah,
is being
exactly.
lost because
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
Like the Egyptian raids that you hear from the tombs, they go in and steal it, and then you kind of got to get rid of it quietly, and then it's like you just lost that whole history.
just
Yeah,
lost
yeah,
the
this is a
history.
giant piece of history.
But
that
if
we're
you
just
raise
not
your
aware
hand
of.
and say, "Hey guys, look what I just found," all of a sudden it's like, "Well, that's not yours. Goodbye."
Yeah.
Kick it.
Yeah.
Like
So-
at least
so-
there should be some finders.
Yeah,
like, reward
Europe
or
has
something.
a great program. You know, you find something, you get a hold of them, and they come out and evaluate it, and if they want it, they have to pay you a percentage of it, or they
That
have to
sounds
pay
great.
it. And so that
Yeah.
way, history isn't lost. The person out looking that finds this, where they would have never found this, they would have never known if it hadn't been for this treasure hunting guy.
Right.
You know, it's a great marriage. It's a great deal. You know,
can make it a
but
win-win.
here it's the government wants it. If they want it, in which they want it, it's theirs.
Yep.
And then you don't get any credit for it. You just get in trouble. And then the people they bring in, the archaeologists, that takes credit for it and all that. And yeah. So
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So this is a two-part question. Anyways, I'm curious. What do you think? What you're willing to admit? I guess now, phrasing it that way. What's like the highest value, like financially, thing you've found financially, and then like what is like the highest value to you personally that you've found?
So the highest value to me, I haven't found what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a cavern full of Spanish gold bars, and I haven't found that yet.
No, that makes
You
sense.
know?
And and this is like a documented
Oh yeah.
thing that you're out looking for. Like there's stories of it. They're
Yep.
And that's in Utah.
Oh yeah. I did a show on it on the on Beyond Oak Island. I did a show on this, the Lost Josephine mine, where there's supposed to be $1 billion worth of gold bars behind a wooden door, and I have an eyewitness to this door, you know, back in the 70s. And so we're trying to get back in to find this door that he found back in the 70s, and we're still working on that actively.
Mm.
And who knows what will happen on that when we find this $1 billion of gold bars. I'm sure the government's going to step in and try and take it. You know,
Yep,
I'm
don't
sure.
tell anyone.
You know, how do you fight the government? You know,
Yeah.
we ain't got enough money to fight the government.
Yeah.
Unless you have $1 billion of gold bars.
A privately chartered boat to Mexico is how you fight the U.S. government.
And I've actually thought about this a lot for some weird reason. I'm like, if I find a room full of gold bars, I'm going to have to like hike in there at night and backpack like 2 or 3 of these things max out because they weigh like 50 pounds each and not tell anybody. Like I'm thinking about all the like paranoia
Logistically, yeah.
I'm going to have to exercise just to keep it a secret.
Well, then how are you going to cash it in too?
Well, that's the other thing I think about. Like who do you go find that'll just take raw gold?
yeah.
You
So-
know what I
so-
mean?
Pawn Stars.
So getting rid of it isn't the problem. Finding it's the problem.
Oh, you can
True.
get rid of it.
True.
Oh yeah, I mean you
You
can
gotta get
I
ahead
mean-
of yourself. Yeah.
you can get a smelter and just melt it down.
Well, that's what I thought. But you go into a pawn shop and you're bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah,
of gold.
yeah,
you
like
gotta
you,
be-
no, come on.
Yeah,
you go to
you're
a
not-
Coinstar. Oh wait,
Coins?
I was gonna-
See, that's what I'm wondering.
Coinstar.
Who do you go to? Like, if I find a chunk of raw gold in my backyard, who do I take that to?
Well, me.
Like, if I want to cash it
my
in.
house.
Yeah, there's people that will buy it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
honestly,
There's a lot of people that
Just
would
go
buy
on
it.
Facebook Marketplace.
let's
Yeah.
put it this way: an ounce of a minted ounce of gold is what, $2,000 right now?
Yeah,
ish
it's like
ballpark.
2,200, I think.
Yeah.
So if you got rid of like 2 ounces a month, I mean, keep working.
Yeah,
keep
but
working.
you can't get rid of $1 billion of gold at 2 ounces a month.
Well,
you got to
just
find a way to
then
move.
you bring in your friends.
Yeah.
You just say,
Let's just set a
you
pact
do
right now, guys.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And would my friends kill me for $1 billion
Well,
worth
we
of gold?
wouldn't.
Jeff,
I
Bill,
would.
I would
So-
never kill you for anything.
Oh,
so
okay.
As soon as you
So
tell
I
one
think-
person, it's
Oh,
no
yeah.
longer a secret.
Yeah.
There
As soon as
go.
you tell one person,
There's-
somebody else could find out.
There's
Yeah.
probably some interesting backstabbing stories that you have too over the years, or at
Oh,
least
yeah.
that you've heard.
Oh yeah, yep. So back to your other question: what's the
like non
treasure? When I found that what I call the mystery glyphs in high in the cliffs in the mountains east of Provo, that changed me from treasure hunting, looking for Spanish gold, which I still do that, but that changed me to the ancients and out of place archaeology, looking for giants, ancient records, things like that. Those mystery glyphs, man, that changed my course, my direction, and opened me up to a whole nother world that I had no clue about.
And
Oh,
is this like up Rock Canyon?
No,
Oh,
it's on the face of the mountain east of Provo.
east of Provo.
You know how steep that is? Clear high up in the cliffs up there.
Yeah. But you don't get up there because I hike up Rock Canyon all the time.
It's not up Rock Canyon. It's on the face.
Huh.
so those things that you're talking about are less financial reward and more information, potentially financial
historically
stuff,
significant.
but it's
markings.
historically
Yeah.
significant stuff. Like if someone were to produce a evidence of giants, literal giants, like men and women, like a race of huge people, like that's historically, I want to say insane, just because it flies in the face of everything we've been taught in school.
Yep.
But that's kind of a different treasure, basically.
Yes.
It's a treasure of knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes
That's
sometimes like scientific and
Historic.
like archaeological explanations for some things just don't jive with me either. Like we went on this really cool hike down southern Utah, Kane Gulch, where it's like one of the highest concentration of like Native American ruins in the country, I think. And
Thousands of years old.
yeah, they're thousands of years old, and they tell you, like, there's this one section in particular where we're at, and the petroglyphs are like 40 feet up on this cliff that's like inverted, and it's a sheer cliff. You cannot climb this thing. And they're like, oh yeah, there used to be a ledge up here, and that's what they stood on and wrote all that, and then the ledge fell down. But I'm looking at the rubble on the bottom, and I'm like, that did not fall down in the last couple thousands of years. Like that, it didn't even look like there really was a ledge there. I'm like, this is just like a wild guess someone came up with. But I'm like, how on earth did they put that there? Like it just, you look at it and it just doesn't compute. Something there is so weird. It just doesn't make sense. Do you ever run into things like the glyphs you're talking about?
All the time. You know, that's exactly what it is. It's somebody's guess, it's somebody's theory, but then they put it out there and all of a sudden that becomes the truth.
Right.
You know, and it might not be. It's like, you know, being Native American. They don't listen to you guys' oral histories, oral traditions. They think, man, them guys smoked too much peyote. Here's what really happened. I mean, why don't you trust the guys that know? You know, it was passed down to them. They know. You know, they kept an accurate oral history.
Right.
You know, they kept an accurate but no, we don't want to believe them. Here's what happened.
Well, and whether it's accurate or not, sometimes it's the only history. Like even if it's passed down, it's like, well, they're saying this, but you know, we think this happened. It's like, well, that might be the only real evidence, like this oral knowledge is passed down. So yeah, there's some things I definitely, at least, and I don't do a ton of treasure hunting, but I'll look at things and I'll be like, there's something has to.
What is the most in your treasure hunting experience? What's the most like unexplainable thing that you have found, where you're just like, what like in your mind, just like, what the fuck?
So, when I was tracking down these mystery glyphs, trying to figure out what they were, at first I thought it had to be a Spanish treasure, then I thought it had to be Aztec treasure, and then, and trying to figure everything out. I heard that there was this college professor who'd done some research on these other 12 that was known about. I didn't know about them at the time. And so I went and got every book that he'd wrote, tried to read it, and didn't. Because somebody says that he talked about these mystery glyphs in one of his books, and I couldn't find anything. So I went to the library there at that university and asked, is there other books that I'm missing? And they told me, well, you might want to check special collections, because sometimes they won't publish a book or they'll write a paper.
Right.
And it'll be in special collections, possibly. Most of the times they turn this stuff into special collections. So I went to special collections and asked for this guy's stuff, and they started bringing me out 24 apple boxes, clear full of filing folders that was in his
Right.
filing cabinet. And what I found happened was that this professor had just passed away, and his wife just donated all his stuff to special collections. Well, this was at BYU. The special collections
Of course.
guy, the special collection guy had a friend, says, hey, man, mind if I look through this stuff? And he said, no problem at all. He was leaving to go on a mission in England. He said, no problem at all. I'll leave word that you're coming. They even had a note on the box. My friend's coming to look at the stuff. When he comes, let him look. Well, when I went and asked for that stuff, they thought it was me.
Oh.
And they brought me out of this stuff. Well, it turns out this guy was given the calling by the Mormon church to check all this stuff out that they thought had to deal with the Book of Mormon. To me, as a treasure hunter, what I seen was in there, man. I thought, wow, And so I spent hundreds of dollars copying stuffs and things like that. But one of the things that you're talking about, what's the coolest thing that there was this story in there about this man named John Brewer who found this cave in the 1950s, and he started excavating it, and he started running into stone boxes that had ancient records on them. He ran into stone boxes. He ran into and remind me, because I got a Navajo story about this. So he ran into 2 giant stone sarcophaguses, and when he got the lids off, he had to get some handyman jacks and some pry bars and pry the lids off. There was 2 giant mummies in there with the gold breastplates, gold crowns, gold, and the man was redheaded, and he was like, I think it was 8'9", and the woman was blonde hair and was 7'6", and now that was a cool story to me when I found that in his folders. And so I'd never heard of giants before. This was before the internet. And so I wanted to know if this, it sounded like a far-fetched tale to me.
Well, it's a rabbit hole.
And so
You ready?
I started backtracking and trying to figure out. I had to do interlibrary loans because it's before the internet. And I'm trying to track down and I'm seeing there is a search thing. They have found these giants, I thought, well, maybe there's something to that, So I started tracking back everybody that was involved with this story that was in these notes.
Yeah.
And I tracked down one guy that had one of these stone boxes that came out of this cave.
Oh my God.
And it was wrapped in cedar bark, and then it was pinion bark. Was it juniper? It was wrapped in juniper bark and then smeared with pine pitch, and then had dirt on it, so it looked like it was a dirt clod,
Yeah.
So inside this
it.
box was 5 copper plates with strange writings on them. So, this could be a fraud. I don't know. This,
Now, when you track this guy down, you
Wild.
saw those things?
Oh, yeah.
He showed those to you?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know. I'm still thinking this could be a fraud, because so I had them carbon dated. And it dated, the bark on that dated between 50 and 350 BC.
Oh.
I thought, wow, there's something to this.
It was Nephi's notebook.
So here's the deal. Mainstream academia says there is no such thing as giants. There is no thing as ancient records. There is no thing as intercontinental travel before Columbus. There is no thing as the Egyptians were here. There is none of that.
Right.
Well, here I got something that says, hey, man, what is this?
Yeah.
And then back to my Navajo story. So I work with a lot of Navajos, and I was doing a job, and I had a girl that was doing some welding for me, and I had for my lunch, I had the pictures of these plates out, and I'm looking at them and studying it, and she happened to notice them. And she says, my grandmother has some plates like that.
What?
I says, wow, really? And she says, yeah, that they were passed down. She says that the in their clan, the medicine woman writes, her grandmother was the medicine woman, and they passed down from the grandmother to the youngest granddaughter. She was the youngest granddaughter. So when they took her when they sent her to school, they sent her to a boarding house somewhere.
Right.
And so she was there while her grandmother come and kidnapped her and took her back to the reservation. And so she never made it back to school till she was 8. The grandmother was teaching her all the medicine woman ways. But one of the things was that these plates, these records that her grandmother had, was passed down to her from her grandmother, and they got them from her grandmother.
Right.
And she's telling me that they had them on the long walk, and that's how their family survived because they was starving. They traded some of these plates for food.
Wow.
And so she says...
What's the long walk? Is that a historic?
That's when they rounded up all the Navajos and wherever they was at and walked them clear to the reservation where they are now.
Like the Midwest South area, they walked all the way across. Okay. Relocation, essentially.
That sounds terrible.
I guess it was terrible.
It probably. Yeah.
And anyways, so she says my grandmother gave my mother one of these plates, and she says that when my grandmother died, she was dying, and she shooed everybody out of the room and asked for me to come in. And she told me, she says, I've got a note hidden under the windowsill for you. Don't let nobody see this, not even your mother, And so she went in there and got this note, and this was a note telling her the grandmother took all her medicine woman things plus these records on metal plates and buried them in a chest up in the mountains on the reservation there somewhere. And this was the direction on how to get to them, 2 different ways. And as of yet, she hadn't been able to locate it, but she hadn't looked that hard.
Yeah.
Well, she was going back. This was during Thanksgiving time, and she was going back to the reservation for Thanksgiving, and she was going to get some photographs of this one plate because I wanted to know.
Right.
These plates look the same as these one that came out of this Brewer Cave. I want to know.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, she goes back. She gets the photographs. This is before digital cameras. She's got on a roll of film, and so she comes back, and she doesn't work directly for me. She was loaned to me by the ironworkers to do some welding for me, and they decide to lay her off. And she hasn't got this film developed yet. She got pictures, but she didn't get the film developed yet. So I wanted to make sure she's not getting laid off till I get to see what these pictures look like. I never got the pictures, so I never knew what happened. But the interesting thing to me was that they guarded this. The family guarded this. They didn't tell anybody else in their clan.
Yeah.
They guarded this. I guess each little group has different things, and they were the keeper of these ancient records. She says that her grandmother had written down that what they said. I would have loved to have seen that.
That would have been interesting to see. Yeah.
Wow.
Love it.
I don't even know, like that to me. That's
blew your mind, listener.
That's great.
Yeah.
We need to find this woman.
And that's a historic, like, I don't know. That's to me, that's just as cool. Like if I found gold, the room full of gold, that's neat. But like you instantly run into a freaking huge problem. You're like, oh, Nikes. How do I get it out? How do I get rid of it? Right. But like something like that, to me, there's just joy. Well, it's just interesting. It's like, wow.
It's the same problem. It's the same problem, where this this girl has it. I don't know if she's found it now or not, but
Right.
you know, that's in their possession. You know, you could take pictures, you could study it, you could try and figure out what these things are saying. You could do, you know, but it's the same thing. Antiquities, you know, anything older than 50 years old. You drop a penny, you find a penny up in the mountains that's older than 50 years old. If the government wants it and you let them know that you found it up there, man, you could go to jail for it.
Yeah.
Yep, just picking it up, which is why some people might not tell.
I'd say. Okay, I have one last question for you. This has been very interesting, but so we go backpacking every year. We do on a big trip, and I'm trying to do more. If there was one area of Utah that you would say, go to that area, your chances of stumbling across something are higher than other areas, what area would you say that is? And not like necessarily geographic, like this canyon on that space, but like just like San Rafael Swell, the Uintas,
or this canyon, this place, whichever.
you know,
That I would say the Uinta Mountains or Kanab.
which is
Kanab.
part of the Uinta Mountains, right?
No.
Is it not?
No.
Oh, okay. Wait,
Kanab is down
I'm thinking Camas.
south.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm thinking
Kanab's
Camas.
down
Kanab
south.
County.
Kanab.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
where King Gulch, isn't that Kanab? Southeast? Like just west of
It's like
Escalante.
Landing?
if you go,
Escalante.
I feel like you go down near like if you're going to Cedar City, but you're going south.
Yeah, it's
rather
just
than-
east of
rather
St. George.
southeast.
Yeah, just east. Yeah,
You split at Richmond area.
Okay. I was thinking.
Richfield, yeah.
Yeah, I was
Or-
thinking.
it's
or,
more
uh,
central.
Richfield.
I want to say it's more central-ish.
That's
Utah.
where that
It's-
gulch
it's-
is you want to hike.
Oh,
I
it's
think.
like-
It's right there by the not
on
that
the-
far from the border there by the reservation by
Oh yeah, it's
by-
like it's where you go to Page.
by
Like if
yeah,
you're
by
going to
Page.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to go to Page, Arizona, you would go through
Yeah.
I-15 down and then go into Kanab and then to
Yeah,
Page
it's
and
like
Page.
it's like right on the border.
Cool geographics.
So
my question to you, what is like, this may be a weird question, but like, what's your biggest like dud when finding something? Like you found something, you're like, oh, well, this might be something worth something, and then it's like, because I immediately think like Antiques Roadshow when someone brings in like something and they're like, this isn't worth like hundreds, and it's like $10.
Like I found a
So-
200-year-old boot and like, oh, it was made last year.
Oh, and you ruined it by putting hand sanitizer on it or
Right,
something.
yeah,
So I found this tree in the Uintas and it was dead. It was a pine tree, but you could see there was marks on it.
Okay.
And there was 21 slash marks. They had to stand on a horse or something to start the slash marks all the way down. And then around on the other side, there was some stuff because the tree was dead and the bark was gone. It was hard to really see exactly what it was. But in my mind, I'm thinking, that means that 21 Veras this direction, there's got to be something. So I mark out 21 Veras, and on a hillside, there's this big rock there. And I thought, maybe there's something under this big rock.
Sorry, what's a Vera?
yeah.
A Vera is a Spanish measurement. It's roughly
A pace?
33 inches. It was the step of a Spaniard at that time.
Okay,
Hey,
So like somewhere around 33
unit of
inches.
measurement, essentially.
21
unit
paces.
of, unit of measurement. So I figured it out. There's a rock right there, a big boulder. I thought, well, maybe there's something under this boulder. So I tried moving this rock by myself, and I couldn't. So I went and got my brother to help me. Man, we'd dig underneath it and get a big log and pry it up a little bit, throw rocks underneath it. I finally got it to roll, and stuck my metal detector under down there, and it started dinging like crazy.
No.
Man, my heart was
I'd say.
pounding. My house was, it turned out being old square nails under that rock. And I'm thinking, that's what I said. Why is old square nails on this hillside under this boulder? You know, that didn't make sense. So I went up the hill a little bit farther and I dug down. Also, I hit some burnt wood there.
Uh-huh.
So I got up the hill a little bit farther and I dig down to where I'm the same level and I find more square nails and more burnt wood. So I go, and this is on a hillside. I'm going, I don't know, why is square nails there? So I
Right.
go down to the bottom and then I can see it. This is one of them things where you don't see things. I can see it faintly sticking out of the ground. You can see a row of rocks like it was the foundation of a building, and then it cut and went into the mountain. And so I started detecting around the bottom of that, and I found a musket ball, the hammer to a flintlock rifle, an iron arrowhead, inside clapper to a bell. And then it dawned on to me, what if this was a Spanish mission or something, and the Indians, because what happened was the Spaniards came in, they enslaved the Indians, they worked them in their mines, they worked them to death. The Indians didn't like that program for some reason. Don't know why they didn't like that, but they didn't like that. So they revolted, they killed off the Spaniards, drove them out, they hit up all their mines, buried all their gold bars, they did all that. Any trace of the Spaniards, so I'm thinking, man, what if they burnt the roof down, they leveled this thing off, they leveled the hillside back down, they rolled a big boulder on there so you can't tell that there was anything ever there.
Right.
You know? I don't know.
So that's
a
where
thought.
it ended?
You
That's
call
where
that
it's
a
ended.
dud,
Wow.
but that's actually
Yeah.
pretty cool
Yeah.
to find an old musket ball. And
I mean, you wouldn't even think.
Hammer
Like,
lumber.
I think I'd find like
Okay.
a broken nail somewhere or a nail. I'd be like, oh, why
So-
is this
A
here? And I
nail.
wouldn't think
So
anything
the
of
old-
it.
Yeah, the old square nails, man, I did some research on them, and they quit making them in the late 1800s.
Mhm.
You know, they went to the
Wow.
round ones.
Uh-huh.
You know, so this is pre-late 1890s
when
or
they
something
used to
like that.
just
But here's a
hit 'em
dud
to-
for you. Man, I was up Highland, up in the canyon there in Highland, and I'm hiking up in them granite cliffs. And I see this wall just glittering with gold. And I'm thinking, man, I can't believe nobody hasn't seen this gold here. I mean, it's just sitting here plain as day. So, man, I'm hacking off and loading my backpack full of stuff, and I get back. This is when I was first started. I get back, and I take it over to a geologist friend I got, and I said, man, look at all this gold I found. And he's looking at it. He says, let me show you something here. He says, see how it shines in the light, and it looks like gold? I says, yeah, man, there's a whole mountain of stuff, so we're rich.
you're a fool. He says.
He says, see how it goes black when I cover it up with shade? And I go, yeah, it's mica.
Yeah. Is that the same thing as fool's gold? Pyrite?
No, it's
it's
different.
Yeah.
It's different, huh?
Pyrite's like sparkly,
Oh, okay.
so it looks like a treasure.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's
So
there's
Mike-
a story of Spaniards came in here. I don't know exactly. I don't think it was in Utah. If it was in Arizona or something, but they mined a whole shipload of pyrite. Thought they had the mother load and
Nope.
went and took it, and it was nothing.
Wow.
Bummer.
So many questions.
I feel like we could probably have you back on like tomorrow because it's just there. I feel like we just got into it, and maybe we should have you back on. But I have so many questions still and stories. But
Yeah,
that's,
Well, this is why we should not have done the news.
no, but I do
Just go
I do
right into it.
I do have a theory as to how they got the petroglyphs so high in so high up.
Yeah.
Right. Because during a solar eclipse, the turtles mate and they stack so high you can stand on them and actually do that.
Like
so
all the turtles climb into one spot.
Well, no.
it's just a turtle mound.
It's
Turtle
the
orgy.
giraffes herded together.
Yeah.
And they climbed up the giraffes' necks.
Yeah.
and-
Those giraffes
yeah.
were in ancient
Aren't giraffes
Utah.
like the most weird creature on
They're
Earth?
awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So they have
I-
like snakes' tongues.
Like if you were an alien and you came and you're just like, what the fuck is that?
like a giraffe really is like probably the best approximation to a dragon if you think about it.
Yeah.
So it's got like this long neck, this
Totally.
huge lizard-like
They
tongue.
fly, they breathe fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're
Listen,
in China.
I don't want to close right now.
Jake.
I have to ask because I noticed your YouTube channel has a lot of recent videos about giants, and you said you kind of got into that idea. And I just have to. How do you think giants built Stonehenge, the pyramids, and stuff like that?
Wait, here's my first question because I'm also on the same page with the giant thing. When you say giants, because in my mind I think like giants like 20 feet, 30 feet tall. That's not what you mean. Like you're talking
Really tall
just
people.
really tall
A
people.
race
Yeah,
of
I'm
really
talking.
tall.
Yeah, 8 to 12 foot.
8 to 12 feet, like Sasquatch type of physical demeanor, right? Is that kind of what you mean by giants?
Sasquatch is
Yeah.
usually like
Well, no,
7.
he's saying like a redhead and a blonde. So
Right.
this is
When you
like,
said like
Yeah,
8
not
foot,
Sasquatch, but real people that are
Big
just like-
humans.
are tall. So it's hard for me to imagine a 30-footer, You know?
Yeah, because I just immediately go to like fantasy, like Jack and the Beanstalk
it's
type
hard
of
for
stuff,
me to
right?
imagine that tall, but they say there have been some like that found, and that sounds absolutely crazy to me. But I got a story.
Wait, because when you say that, in my mind, I think like, well, if I'm a giant and I'm putting a petroglyphs or hieroglyphs or whatever on a mountain, wouldn't those be larger?
You would think so, yes.
Like, wouldn't? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
You should
wouldn't
see
they
my
be
daughter's
larger?
doodles
Yes.
on her
Yeah.
notebook. They're
Like,
tiny.
Doodles on like a 4-year-old are a lot smaller compared to like an
I get what you're
adult
saying.
person. You know what I mean? So wouldn't they be larger?
Yes and no. I would say yes, you would think so,
Yeah.
but you're thinking of the panel that you're putting them on. You know, you've only got so much smooth surface. Now, if you're on a sandstone cliff or something where you got a long ways that it's smooth, then that's a different story.
Right.
You know, but if you've got a smaller area to write, you know, it's just like you got a little Post-it note thing and you got to write. You're going to be writing smaller on that little Post-it note than versus a full 8x10
I see what
paper.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Perspective. Yeah. Okay. Sorry with your story. Okay.
But
continue.
but in this same area we went to, in this other canyon, there's this big man panel, it's called, and it's like a 15-foot tall, like big man, like it's a big
Yeah.
alien looking man.
But I get
drawn
that
up
you draw to the canvas that you're using.
Yeah.
Like Post-it note to an 8x10 or whatever
Yeah.
you would use it. So that makes sense of what you're saying. So I get that. Okay. Anyways.
So did giants build the pyramids? Is that what you're asking, Jake?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Go
I-
ahead.
Talking about that, Phil?
Did you show a photo of something?
Yeah, I think that's one of them.
Yeah, I've got photos from that
That
trip.
that one, go back to the left, right there. Isn't that the panel that it was like
well,
impossible to climb
there's this
up?
up high. You're looking
Yeah.
straight up, and
Like, how on earth did they get up there?
I mean, you can
You see
build
how
scaffolding,
inverted
Phil.
that is.
I didn't want to
Yeah.
bring that up, but you can build scaffolding.
these lines here, and
Well, they would have had to. They're like, instead of drawing right here where I'm standing, I'm gonna build a ladder,
Yeah.
climb way up there.
When you don't have TikTok, there's all kinds of stuff you can do.
Yeah, I guess.
Or mating turtles that you can stand on.
Exactly.
Or the
Yes.
back of a giraffe's neck.
Some of the stuff that you see out there, you think, how did they do that way back when? And
Right.
wow, way back then, man, they've got buildings way back then. You know, the ruins, the Anasazi ruins, and they're still standing from thousands of years ago. You know, I mean, they're crunched down, but thousands of years ago, man, you show me a house we got around here that's 1,000 years old. You know, you see some of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
Getting close
crazy.
to 200,
Yeah.
and the solution is just tear it down. So we
Or
can
they
put a Smith's
literally
here.
like disintegrate, like the roofs cave
Oh, yeah.
in, and they
Yeah.
just like slowly come right down to the ground. But,
yeah, it's
but in this canyon, they're like complete structures. Just, I mean, they look like probably they did 1,000 years ago. Like,
it's all the how the heck did they do that stuff from hundreds and thousands of years ago that fascinates me and makes me think there's significantly more to what our mainstream history is telling us about. Like, we don't know how the pyramids were built or how Stonehenge was built. We have theories that would have taken thousands of people, years and years and years to do. Or if there were 20-foot giants, they could have easily done it. You know what I mean?
Good questions, because back in South America, you know, they found these steps that are man, they're so tall that man, you gotta lift yourself up and drag yourself over these steps. You know, why are them steps so big? There's a lot of stuff that just does not make sense.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I love
You know?
those things.
Well, I'm just going to say right now, I think if you're willing, I would love to have you back on, and maybe we do a special where we just skip the news
Just
and go straight to Terry Carter.
but how would we know
Sure.
about the turtles and all that?
That's
stuff?
true. That's true. We'd be missing out on a
Skip the
couple
news.
jokes.
Well,
Yeah.
you could
Hey,
definitely skip the turtle.
So
That's all I'm saying.
for your informations, the turtle symbol, whether it's built out of rocks, carved on a tree, carved on a rock, is a Spanish treasure symbol. You find a treasure, you find a turtle carved on a tree on a rock, an outcropping of rocks that looks like check that area
You
out.
see what I'm talking about, guys? I was setting up this the whole time. I am a professional treasure hunter, starting right now, looking for turtles. In fact, I need you guys to start calling me Turtle.
All right.
Okay.
Well, Terry, plug your YouTube channel. Like are you on any of the social stuff? Plug it for everybody.
Apparently, I'm on Instagram, but I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
I think you're being shouted out from other people on Instagram. It's cool though.
So you know, my YouTube channel is Terry Carter Treasure Hunter. Look for the crossbone, skull and crossbone pirate with the patch on the eye, and then I have a Facebook page, just Terry L. Carter on Facebook.
Look it up.
Sweet.
Well done.
I love it so much, and I'm not joking. I want to have you come back, and maybe we'll just jump straight to stories. But you know, who knows what we're going to talk about off air? We'll see.
Well, you can do stories at 9, and then just invite Terry to come in at 10:30.
Oh, I see. You think we're wasting Terry's time? I see.
Oh,
I get it. No, I got it.
100%.
No, I got it.
100% wasted.
Thank you for listening, and we love you guys so much. Is there like business we need to talk about, Jake? Like,
Nope.
this has been
Goodbye.
Okay, well, bye.
The end. The end.
Rings to